Hi everyone. Well, this is the nutrition part of the program. All right, I'm going to be talking about a lot of components today. So I've linked all the segments below. So if you want to listen to a part again, just to really inundate yourself with it, go ahead and check the notes below and you can see the time frame of where I start talking about each subject. Let me just start off by saying nutrition is huge. There's so many different ways that you can go about losing weight, gaining muscle vis-a-vis nutrition. And it can be really tricky and very overwhelming. At the end of the day, my primary concern is that you have a healthy relationship with food. I would hate for you to go on a diet, lose a bunch of weight, and then only to gain it back again, because that's not what I'm about. I want you to eat in a way that is sustainable for the long haul, forever. That being said, I want to teach you the foundations that you can carry on, not just through this program, but for the rest of your life. I think the what of nutrition is really big. You got to understand what you're eating, how macronutrients work, this carb balancing, that whole thing is really important, but you have to also understand the why. And if you've had any issues with food at all, if you've overeaten repeatedly in a way that doesn't make you feel good or makes you feel guilty, the why is really critical for you to understand too. Okay, I want to start by talking about the glycemic index because this is important to know as you choose foods throughout this program and throughout your life. All right, there are foods that are really high in sugar load. So those are the ones that are going to be higher in carbs, typically higher in calories, okay, and possibly not as nutrient dense as other foods. So when you're looking at your foods, I want you to make sure that you pick as low glycemic as possible. It's that unstable insulin spike as soon as we eat something like white rice, white carbs, white pasta, cookies, cakes, ice cream. All of those elements have very little fiber and a lot of glycogen in them. So that sugar load just spikes our insulin, and unless we're going on a big marathon run or doing some exercise right away, our body's not able to use up all that fuel, and so it just gets stored as fat. All right, so that's really where that carb tipping point comes into play as well. We've got to figure out how many carbohydrates you can eat in order to have enough energy for the day, but not so much that they tip the scales and get stored as fat. So throughout this program, I want you to eat vegetables and fruit that are on the lower glycemic index. That's going to help keep your calories low. That's going to help keep your carb levels lower. And again, that carb tipping point, we want to make sure that you have the energy to do the workouts, but if you eat things that are high glycemic, so maybe you're eating a lot of fruit, maybe you're eating corn and carrots and vegetables like potatoes that have really high sugar load, that's not going to help you lose weight and lose body fat very fast. So you have to be mindful that every foods that you choose need to be on the lower end of the glycemic index. The carb tipping point is different for every body, okay? So it depends really on what type of body you have. There are three types. You can either be an ectomorph, an endomorph, or a mesomorph. And here's a little description just to show you exactly how many carbohydrates, fat, and proteins you should have for each body type. Now this can all be very different too, depending on your activity level, but this would be a great starting place for your macronutrient balance, okay, is to look at this chart and say, okay, I'm this type of body, therefore my daily percentage allotment will start at this. You kind of just get the cards that you're dealt with the body type that you have, so don't fret about that, but we've got to just pay attention to how much fuel and energy that we actually need for our daily activities and for the jobs that we have as well. One of the things I'm really big on, this is what I do in my household all the time, is if I want to keep my carbohydrate levels a little bit lower, then I want to look at things that are really healthy swaps to have. So maybe I love rice, but I know that rice is really high in carbohydrates and it's high in calories that don't give me much nutrients. So maybe I'll swap that with some cauliflower rice. So that's a really simple thing to make. You just take cauliflower, you can either grate it or pulse it in a food processor and then just pan fry it with a little bit of coconut oil, and that makes a great side dish instead of rice. Instead of noodles or pasta, I'll now choose zucchini noodles or spaghetti squash. Instead of bread for sandwiches and burgers, I'll now choose a piece of lettuce to wrap my burger in. Now, this isn't to say that you can't once in a while have something that you really enjoy and have the crackers and cheese or have pasta, but that should only be less than 20% of the time. Remember that main principle is that 80% of the time you want to be eating healthy, clean, and 20% of the time you can have your treats. Now, when you're on fat loss or weight loss, that's going to shift a little bit to 90% and 10%. I don't want you to restrict yourself from some of the things that you really enjoy, but every day you have to be mindful about the choices that you're making. I have to be mindful every single day still, and now for the rest of my life. I don't just go on a diet for 6 weeks or go on an eating plan for 6 weeks and then change because I'm tired of it. This is what I wanted to help teach you guys, is that this is something that we have to do for the long haul, for the rest of your life, forever and ever. Amen. Remember, Seth Godin says, people like us do things like this. So if you want to be a fit and healthy person, do what fit and healthy people do, which is the lion's share of the time you're eating healthy and you're exercising and moving daily. Now, portion control is important. I had a client once who said, I don't understand why I'm gaining weight, I'm eating healthy, and I'm eating all the things you told me to eat, I just don't understand. Well, at the end of the day, calories in versus calories burned is still the bottom line. That is crucial. So even though we're not counting calories in this program, I still need you to be mindful about how much you're consuming. You can still eat too much healthy food and gain weight. Your hand is a great starting spot for how much food that you could be consuming. So palm is protein. That's how much protein you should be having, the size of your palm. Cup is carbs, so how much brown rice would fit in there, how much sweet potato would fit in my palm, okay? 2 palmfuls for vegetables, so my asparagus, my green beans, and salad, and then thumb is fat. So how many almonds, how much olive oil, how much coconut oil is all right there available for us in the size of our hand. Here are a few tips that I want you to start with portion control, okay? I want you to choose a smaller plate every time. So that's a way that actually tricks the brain into thinking that you're actually getting as much as everyone else. If you choose a big 12-inch plate and then you have your little palm of protein, cup of carbs, fists of veg, and then thumb of fat, it's gonna look maybe pretty small on there, and you might think that you're being deprived or feeling left out. Whereas if you put all that food on an 8-inch plate, okay, that's gonna make a huge difference. So even for my daughter and I in our household, we eat from smaller plates. I had a client once who said to me, I eat the same as my husband and he's not gaining weight and I am, and I don't get it. Well, that's the problem. You're eating the same as your husband. A few other tips for portion control is you can try eating with the opposite hand. Sometimes that slows you down a little bit. You can try eating with chopsticks. Another way to eat less as well is to really take your time when you're eating, to really eat mindfully. Okay, I did this one experiment once when I was a therapist, and we just learned how to be more mindful about our food. We started with just a piece of food and we held it in our mouth. And the instructor told us to really notice the food. What did it taste like? What part of our mouth salivated? Did it taste sweet, savory, salty? Where did we feel it on our tongue? I'm just salivating thinking about that. But to really notice and pay attention to the food. So the way that you do that is not by reading the newspaper, not by looking at the computer screen, not by looking at your phone, not by driving. You pay attention. And this is really, really important as we move forward with a better relationship with food, because if you're not eating in a mindful way, if you're eating mindlessly, chances are you're gonna eat 30% more than you think because you're not paying attention. You're not paying attention to those internal cues that actually tell you that you're full. And then sometimes too, we'll eat faster than we normally would. It actually takes 20 minutes for the brain to send signals down to the stomach that it's full. So if you're eating your food, your meal within 5 minutes, chances are you're gonna eat more because that signal hasn't been sent to your brain to tell you that it's full. So I want you to practice eating slowly and practice eating mindfully. In this program, we're really focusing on your macronutrients. I want you to begin to fully understand what it means to look at your macronutrient chart, to understand how you read macronutrients on the back of a label, and to see that once you balance those things out, you can get the body that you want. All right, so there's 3 major macronutrients. You've got carbohydrates, you've got protein, you've got fats. Now, carbohydrates and fat are used to fuel the body. Fat is also used to give us a very clear brain, to help us feel satiated, and to give us energy. Now, protein is the building block of muscle, and if you don't have enough, you're not going to build muscle the way that you want to. A great rule of thumb is that every single meal that you eat should contain protein. So that means if you like having oatmeal for breakfast, you're no longer just having oats, okay? You're adding a little protein powder to it. You're having a boiled egg beside it. So always think that you want to pair protein, healthy fat, and carbohydrates together. Now, if you're trying to lose body fat or lose weight, a great rule of thumb is to eliminate complex carbohydrates after 12 noon. So have them in your breakfast or your post-workout meal, but then nothing complex carbohydrate after lunch, okay? So it means you can still have vegetables, low glycemic vegetables like we talked about, but in terms of having quinoa or sweet potato or oats or bread or pasta or potatoes or anything like that, that's all done before noon. So your workouts are going to burn up the carbs as fuel. Okay, your daily activities will burn up the carbs as fuel. And then if you can go to bed not having an excess of carbs in your stomach or in your system, by the next morning the body is looking for something to burn and it starts to burn body fat. So that's what we want. That's the ideal that we want, right? Is to have enough carbs for energy, but not so much that they get stored as excess energy in the system. We want our body to turn on the fat burning and begin to burn fat as fuel. Be sure that you've watched the tutorial from MyFitnessPal in order to learn how to chart your own macronutrients and log all of your food, okay? That's really important. People who log their food tend to do better with fat loss and weight loss than people who just kind of fly by the skin of their teeth and don't log anything. It keeps you accountable, it makes you mindful of your choices, and it educates you on how much carbohydrates, protein, and fat are in certain foods. Now, food preparation is really important as you look forward towards your week. Okay, I like to take Sundays and do a little food prep because then you're prepared. And again, visibility, convenience, if it's there, accessible for you, you're gonna be far more apt to choose it than if you don't have it prepared. So take the Sunday to look at the foods that you're gonna be eating that week and to prep and cook up a bunch ahead of time. So I might make my protein pancakes and store those in the freezer in between some saran wrap. I might make my oatmeal and keep that in a bowl in my refrigerator. I might take 12 eggs, whip those up with some veggies and keep that for my omelet in the morning, so that's really easy to go. I love taking a big sheet pan and cooking up a bunch of chicken breasts and then putting vegetables that I like, lower glycemic ones like Brussels sprouts, broccoli, peppers, onions, all around the sheet, and then just dividing that up into containers. And then I might cook my complex carbohydrates. I can cook up a sweet potato or some quinoa or some brown rice and portion that out as well. Having quick snacks on hand like your boiled eggs is really important. I make up my turkey muffins, which is fantastic. Those are just like little turkey meatloafs in a little muffin tin. So it's super easy grab and go. I can store them in the freezer and then just put a couple in a Ziploc bag and take them to work with me. Now, your post-workout meal is one of the most important meals that you'll eat. That is the time that everything is open and ready to receive the good fuel that you have to give it. So every post-workout meal needs to have protein, complex carbohydrates, and a healthy fat in it, okay? A protein shake is a great quick option for that because whey protein goes instantaneously into our cells to help repair. You can add some carbohydrates by having some fruit in there like blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, so adding a lot of high micronutrients as well. And then you can also add some healthy fat by putting in some nut butter or some MCT oil or coconut oil into that shake. But if I'm at home, I prefer real food, so I'll often have leftovers, some chicken, maybe some asparagus or veggies, or chicken salad with some yams, or whatever is available in my fridge. Now, a lot of people ask about pre-workout meal, and this is really different for everyone because it depends on when you work out, right? If you worked out in a time that allowed you to eat a meal a couple hours before, then you could have a meal that had protein, fat, and carbohydrates in it to help fuel you. But a lot of people work out first thing in the morning, and so they eat nothing, and that's okay too. At the end of the day, your pre-workout meal is not as crucial as that post-workout meal. So post-workout must include all 3 macronutrients, and it should be eaten within 30 minutes of working out. All right, on this program, I'm very keen for you to try intermittent fasting. It's such a great way to restrict your time period that you're consuming food. And by doing so, you actually eat less food. I just want to tell you a little story of where I found intermittent fasting to work brilliantly for me. We went to Europe last year for our 25th wedding anniversary and stayed at some Airbnbs. So in the morning, we would be like, oh, we're starving, we don't have any food here, we didn't bring any for the place, and let's go out and find a place to eat. So normally we'd wake up around 7 or 8, but we wouldn't find a place to eat until like 10 o'clock. We were with some other people, so you know, you're always like, oh, who wants to eat here? Who wants to eat there? So anyway, once we found the place to eat, we would eat our breakfast and then go on a little tour or something like that. And then typically around 4, I'd start to feel hungry again. So we'd eat at 4, but it was like an early dinner, so I was never hungry in the evening, and sometimes we might have a little snack. But by and large, we kept our eating time frame in an 8-hour window. I couldn't believe it when I came back from Europe. I had actually lost weight and I had things like gelato and pizza and wine. But the benefit of eating within an 8-hour window is that your stomach starts to shrink a little bit. You don't feel like you're as hungry because you literally only have 8 hours to fit your food in. So the stomach actually feels satiated, you feel full, and by and large you consume less calories, less macronutrients in an 8-hour window than you would in a 14-hour window. Think about it. You wake up at 5 a.m., you throw something in your mouth, and then you go to bed at 9 and you eat right before there. You're eating 14 to 16 hours. And every time that we put food into our system, it spikes our insulin levels up, and unless you're burning off all those calories that you consume, again, that just gets stored as fat. So shortening the window that you eat your food in, making it 8 hours. So for an example, if you get up at 6 a.m., don't make your first meal until 10 a.m. So maybe you have to take something to work and have a little break, and that's where you eat your first meal. And then you'll eat your last meal starting at 6 p.m. So it's only 8 hours. Then close the kitchen down for the evening, brush your teeth and floss, and nothing else to eat, not even your vitamins, after 6 p.m. See, that's where some people get confused. What can I eat ahead of time? Can I have coffee with cream? Can I have my bulletproof coffee? Can I have my vitamins? Can I have my BCAAs? Well, I want you to do what's sustainable for you, but experts say that all of those things, coffee cream, butter in your bulletproof coffee, vitamins, okay, BCAAs, all have components in it that spike our insulin and get our metabolic system revving. So if you could not eat any of those things except for in your 8-hour eating window, that would be ideal. A lot of experts also say that black tea and coffee also start our metabolic engine running. I prefer having a black coffee in the morning, but that is up to you. If you want to go strict intermittent fasting, feel free to eliminate that. But if you need coffee, like I need my coffee, and I'm not too stringent about it, then I enjoy my coffee, and then I'll have another coffee with cream at my start of my eating window. Okay, so to recap that, I know that it was a lot. 8 hours of eating, 16 hours of a fast, okay? Pick the time that works the best for you. And again, you don't have to eat before workout. There's a lot of science on working out fasted versus not working out fasted and how much energy will you have and so on and so forth. I'd like you to try this as a formula, okay, for fat loss, weight loss. If you feel like you absolutely cannot do this because you require food before you work out, then feel free just to eliminate that component. I want to tell you a little bit about supplementation. There's only a few things that I really would recommend that you consume, okay? So again, we're going for a sustainable lifestyle, right? This is not a bodybuilding program. We want to sculpt and shift and change our bodies, but in a healthy, sustainable way. Okay, so number one thing that's tried and true that's been recommended, and multiple studies have been done on this, thousands of studies, is whey protein. So it goes instantaneously into the cells, it's convenient and quick, and nowadays it tastes great. So they're listed in the links below are the proteins that I would recommend for you. There's a vegan one down there as well as a whey protein. So that is something that I think that you should get and have on hand. BCAAs, branched chain amino acids, those are important to help us synthesize our muscle tissue. So if you in this program are serious about putting in some muscle size, that's a requirement for you. If you're like, you know what, I just want to lose some weight and be healthy, you don't necessarily have to have it. Our body does produce amino acids, okay, our branched chain amino acids, but this just adds an additional amount of branched chain amino acids to the body, and it helps take the protein and synthesize it and create more additional muscle for you. Pre-workout, here's a pre-workout that I recommend. I don't normally take it. I feel like my shot of coffee is enough caffeine to get me going. I have a lot of clients who take a pre-workout though. That's not necessarily recommended, but if you want to choose a pre-workout drink to help energize you and stimulate muscle growth and blood flow, then go ahead and choose this one there. In terms of vitamin and mineral supplements, omega-3 is the king. You have to be on omega-3s. And it's not omega-3, 6, 9. We get a lot of 6 and 9 in the other foods that we eat, okay? So you want only omega-3s. And another really important vitamin to take is your vitamin D, okay? Especially through these winter months. If you're in the winter time right now following this program, the sun is gone. It's too far away from the earth to give you its benefits, so you must have vitamin D. That's a feel-good chemical. It helps make us feel energized and clears our brain fog. Okay, it's also recommended to take a multivitamin as well, but as with all of these things, your doctor is going to recommend what's ideal for you. Everyone's different. I'm on iron pills because I have anemia, so it's different for everyone. Just listen to what your doctor says, but these are recommended in terms of a fit and healthy lifestyle. Okay, coming up next week in the program is going to be a little bit of a deeper dive into the why behind nutrition. Okay, this was all the what. What am I supposed to eat? What are my macros supposed to be? You know, what foods are good for me? But the why is equally, if not more important. So I want a separate video for that. I want to take a deep dive and share and talk with you girls a little bit more in depth about that. So that's coming up, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, be thinking, if you go to food, if you have cravings for food, if you can't resist certain foods, if you don't have a great relationship with food, be thinking about why that is. Start to be curious about your behavior and your reactions toward food, okay? That's a really great place to start being mindful and curious. Just, check me out. I just ate a whole Toblerone bar in one sitting. I wonder what that's about. Okay, that's a good place to start. All right, that's probably enough for now. Check the links below. All of the topics are listed down there by number, so you can just jump to that number if you want to hear what I have to say again about that certain thing. And as always, you can message me anytime if you have any questions about what we talked about today. All right, are you ready to eat healthy and move daily in your nutrition? Yes, you are. All right, let's do it.